A good governance structure in a large organization typically includes several key components that ensure accountability, transparency, and compliant decision making. Now, you'll need to have a board of directors to set strategic directions, approve policies, and provide risk oversight. There needs to be diversity and inclusion on the board level to ensure that people leading your company have the knowledge and expertise relevant to your company's services or products, and that stakeholders' needs are being taken into account in the decision-making process. You'll also want a balance of independent and executive directors to ensure they act in the best interest of the company. To ensure your board functions well, you'll need to regularly evaluate its performance, prioritize independence in board composition, and separate powers between the board and management. Now, this brings us to the next element of good governance structure, which is having clear roles and responsibilities. You should have clearly defined roles and responsibilities for the board and the executive management. That means making sure there is separation of the roles of the CEO and the board chairperson to prevent concentration of power where appropriate. One way to ensure people understand their roles and responsibilities is by implementing ethical standards and codes of conduct. A comprehensive code of conduct outlines the principles, values, and ethical expectations for all employees and board members, including policies on bribery prevention, conflict of interest, compliance with law, and other forms of ethical compliance. A code of conduct would typically include whistleblower policies to provide a foundation for ethical decision-making within the company and mechanisms for members of the company to report unethical behavior without fear of retaliation. Now, one key to ensuring good governance is regular assessment of your board's performance. Now, this can be done by inviting your board members to conduct self-assessments and peer reviews periodically. Maybe by identifying areas of improvement and formulating solutions, you can enhance the function of this organ as it's key to good governance. Another feature of good governance structure is transparency and disclosure. A company with strong governance will make transparent disclosures of its company objectives, governance policies, ownership structure, financial and operational performance, remuneration policy, current state of affairs, and future directions, issues related to stakeholders' ESG activities, and so on. Now, one key to transparent disclosures is that the information disclosed must be truthful, complete, timely, and accessible. Now, all companies and organizations face risks. Good governance doesn't mean eliminating strategic or operational risks, but it really means setting up a robust risk management framework and relevant procedures to identify and manage foreseeable risks, including financial, operational, and reputational risks, so as to mitigate their negative impact on the organization. The relevant procedures are called internal controls, which can safeguard assets, ensure accurate and reliable financial reporting, promote compliance with laws and regulations, and achieve effective and efficient operations. Now, these systems not only relate to accounting and reporting, but also include communication processes both internally and externally, staff management and error handling. And in the risk management framework, you should also have crisis management plans with established protocols for responding to crises, such as service outage if you're a digital service provider, or supply chain issues if you're a food company. Now, you can't really have proper risk assessment and management frameworks without an internal audit. Now, internal audit is an independent, objective assurance and consulting activity designed to add value and improve an organization's operations. And it helps an organization accomplish its objectives by bringing a systematic, disciplined approach to evaluate and improve the effectiveness of risk management, control, and governance processes. Now, in most companies, the internal audit team reports directly to the board of directors, normally through the audit committee, to provide them with the assurance they need over key risks. Another way to identify potential risks is through stakeholder consideration. Now, this entails engaging with your stakeholders, including your investors or funders, employees, partners, suppliers, customers or beneficiaries, members of the community, etc. Now, because of your company's operations are interconnected with your stakeholders, you should develop mechanisms to consider the interests of various stakeholders and incorporate them all into the company's strategy and decision-making process. Now, you may be wondering whether a good governance structure looks different in a large corporation versus a smaller organization. Now, while the structure may vary in complexity and layers of commands, depending on the size of your organization and the industry your business is in, a good governance structure typically comprises a board structure, often a unitary board structure, and a stakeholder governance. Now, a unitary board structure means a single board that includes executives and non-executives and the CEO chairing the board. A stakeholder governance focuses on the different Now, stakeholder governance focuses on the effects of a company's activities on all of its stakeholders, including internal stakeholders, which can include people working inside the company, and external stakeholders, which includes customers or beneficiaries, partners, suppliers, investors, funders, really anyone that's out in the community that's connected to your company. Now, for large corporations, the structure may be a little more complex and include a two-tiered board structure that separates the management board, which oversees daily activities, and the supervisory board, which oversees and appoints the management board. And the board of large corporations may also enact committees to oversee specific issues. So, for example, an audit committee will oversee financial reporting and internal controls, or a compensation committee could determine the executive remuneration.